The Resilience Across Borders podcast is intended for education, support, and inspiration. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer any professional, medical, or health advice. If you are dealing with or suffering from any psychological or medical conditions, please seek help from a qualified health professional. Hello and welcome back to Resilience Across Borders podcast. I'm your host Rashid Zahidi, and in today's episode, we'll discuss why do we get curious or obsessed about an ex and healthy ways to deal with it. So breakups often leave us with unanswered questions and a longing for closure, making curiosity and obsession about an ex very common. This mental loop isn't just emotional, it's rooted in psychology and brain chemistry. So understanding the drivers behind this fixation can empower you to shift from obsessive curiosity to healthy coping. As usual, I'm going to share with you some strategies and practical examples to help you manage these feelings constructively. And again, these are based on research, these are based on my experiences and everything I've gathered in my life experiences. So number one is to be aware of the brain's need for certainty. After a breakup, your brain craves understanding. You might replay events, analyze texts, or even stalk social media, or stalk in person, hoping to make sense of what went wrong. This need for certainty often fuels obsessive thinking. A healthy response is to focus on self-awareness and closure within oneself or within yourself. For instance, you can journal about your feelings and questions that may haunt you. If there are any questions that are still haunting you, write down your perceived answers and knowledge that you might never have complete clarity. And sometimes you already know the answers to these questions, but somehow just because force of habit, never really stop and think about it. But this practice helps externalize the mental loop, making it easier to process. And also getting it out of your head and putting it on paper. Sometimes you can just look back at it and read it back, and then you realize how sometimes even ridiculous it is, or how it's not new data, it's not new information. It's nothing that's going to change anything. It's just sometimes the brain playing tricks. So anyways, you can create a closure statement as well, such I may never fully understand why things ended, or I may never fully understand why that person was acting that way, or they could not get out of that pattern, or so on and so forth. But I can choose to let go for my peace. So you're letting go for your own peace. Number two, you have to be aware of the dopamine addiction. So interactions with your ex, especially during the honeymoon phase, likely trigger dopamine surges. So post-breakup, your brain misses those chemical highs, making you crave even indirect contact, like checking their social media, to just come as close to that dopamine hit as possible. So a healthy response instead is to replace the dopamine-driven habits with new, fulfilling activities. For instance, you can start a new hobby like painting, hiking, or dancing, or other activity that will give you that good feeling. These activities can create new dopamine triggers and provide a sense of accomplishment, where you retrain yourself basically to get that pleasure and that fulfillment from other things that are actually healthy for you. You can set a goal, for instance, running a 5K or learning a new recipe weekly or a new language, to focus your energy on positive challenges rather than obsessing over your ex. Number three, another thing to be aware of is there is this underlying fear of being forgotten or replaced. So curiosity about your ex's life can stem from a fear that they've moved on faster or more successfully than you. This fear often fuels the need to check up on them, and it also fuels FOMO, fear of missing out. So a healthy response is to shift focus to self-growth rather than comparison. So you can reflect on your personal goals and bring the focus back to you and make a vision board for your ideal future. This will give you something to aspire to and help you see the breakup as a step toward a better version of yourself. And remember, better things are awaiting you. And you can even use affirmations like, my worth isn't tied to my ex's life. I am building my own beautiful future. Number 4, something to be aware of is the allure of nostalgia. Memories of good times with your ex can trigger a longing to revisit those moments, which may lead to obsessive thoughts. And also another thing is that this seems to happen is, obviously there are reasons why the relationship didn't work. There are reasons why you broke up or they broke up or whatever it is. Sometimes once the stink has left the room, again, the mind starts playing tricks and only starts like running these maybe good moments, those good memories. But there are good reasons why the relationship didn't work. There are reasons why the universe would not let you be comfortable in that relationship, because it's not meant for you. So a healthy response is to reframe the nostalgia, to honor the past while moving forward. Maybe are there any things to celebrate, any things to learn, any lessons to look back? Or in the words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, celebrate that it happened, if there was any good memories there. Otherwise, take the lessons and move on using all these techniques that we're talked about. So you can write a gratitude list about what the relationship taught you and what you're thankful for. So there are lessons in there, and there are reasons why a lot of things happen for us and not to us. So once all of this melts away, there's usually lessons. We usually come away better people. Maybe we develop more emotional awareness. Maybe we develop more self-awareness. Maybe we fine-tune actually what we want and what we don't want. Maybe we're more attuned to recognizing red flags, and so on. Then write another list focusing on what you're excited to experience in the future without the ex. So whenever nostalgia strikes, redirect your focus to something you love about the present, like a supportive friend or a fun activity, or things that you get to do now in a peaceful manner without someone making you feel bad. Number 5 is unresolved emotional attachment. This is a tough one. Obsession can also stem from lingering emotional ties. This takes time, such as feeling guilty or wondering if your ex still cares. So a healthy response is to practice emotional detachment through mindfulness. So for instance, you can try a guided meditation focusing on releasing attachment. Visualize a cord connecting you to your ex, then imagine gently cutting it while wishing them. And speaking of meditations, if you happen to be on Insight Timer, I do have meditations for this and other things. And on my profile there is Rashid Z. I just put the first initial of my last name. So Rashid Z in the teacher profiles on Insight Timer if you want the meditations. For now, I may publish them somewhere else down the line, but for now, that's the only place where they are published, just because it's easy for me right now. So anyways, practical tip is use grounding techniques like deep breathing, or naming 5 things you see, or even just 3 things you see, and 3 things you feel, 3 things you hear, just to ground you. Okay, remind yourself, where am I? Here. What time is it? Now. And you can do that many times over to bring yourself back to now. So whenever obsessive thoughts arise, this can help bring your focus back to the present. Number 6, social media's influence. Scrolling through your ex's profile can become an addictive cycle, feeding both curiosity and pain, and then keeping you stuck in that loop, because then the curiosity, then you look, then you feel like shiitake, then you're just like, then you want to look again, and it's just a painful cycle that you don't want to get out of that roundabout, right? So a healthy response is to set boundaries with social media. You can mute or unfollow your ex to avoid constant reminders. Replace mindless scrolling with apps or tools that promote personal growth, like fitness trackers or language learning apps or meditation apps or breathing apps, and so on. You can commit to a digital detox for a set period of time to break the habit of checking their updates. And then maybe you can go back once you've gotten past that and you've done your healing. Anyways, curiosity and obsession about an ex are natural after a breakup, but they don't have to define your healing journey. By understanding the underlying triggers and using these strategies, you can redirect your energy towards self-growth, resilience, and a brighter future. Healing takes time, It's not linear. It can be up and down, but it takes time. But it does happen with time. But every small step you take away from obsession is a step closer to freedom and peace and a better future. As always, thank you for tuning into the Resilience Across Borders podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast and finding it helpful to you, please pick up a copy of the companion journal by yours truly called Emogym on Amazon. It's Emogym. You can also follow the blog posts and new episodes as they get added. The URL is at resilience.com, ATRESILIENCE.com. Remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and stay resilient.